Right now on Indianapolis This Week.
This is a very difficult time in the life of our economy.
Governor Mike Pence sits down to discuss the economy, health care, same-sex marriage, and energy, plus conflict overseas, and the senator who explains why Hoosiers need to care.
So I think nipping these things in the bud when someone acts as a big bully.
And it's one of the oldest newspapers in the country.
We have criticized the African-American community, and it can be tough.
She's tough and tenacious. The president of the Indianapolis Recorder in the Sunday Spotlight.
From RTV6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
The ink is dry. New bills with the governor's signature will become new laws in July or January. When it comes to Indiana's economy, Governor Pence signed 4 bills developed by the Indiana Career Council that was established last year. One of his economic initiatives was also signed into law with the business personal property tax cut. With education, the governor signed a law which pulls Indiana out of the Common Core. The State Board of Education will have to come up with new standards for students statewide. And then there is the bill to let voters decide on expanding mass transit in central Indiana. That bill does not include any plans for light rail. We met with the governor at his office in the State House. We had many questions for Mr. Pence about a number of pressing issues, from the economy to energy to the pending health care deadline for some. Governor, thank you for joining us. The Affordable Care Act deadline is on Monday for some. Where are we with the Healthy Indiana plan? You met with Secretary Sebelius while you were in Washington several days ago. Are you moving forward with that?
We're in regular negotiations and discussions with Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C. over our desire to expand consumer-driven health care in Indiana. I'm very grateful for the meeting that we had with Secretary Sebelius. Our teams are in regular discussion. And I've made it clear that I'm open to expanding health care coverage in Indiana, so long as we can do it in a way that's in the best interest of the health of Hoosiers, but also in the interest of the fiscal health of our state. So making sure we can do it in a way that uses the foundational principles of the Healthy Indiana plan, and then also finding a way that it can be done in a fiscally responsible way is what we're working through right now. But I would characterize those discussions as productive. And in the weeks ahead, we anticipate submitting a waiver application to the federal government, and we're hopeful that that will result in Indiana's ability to continue to lead the nation in the kind of health care reform that encourages people to take ownership of their health care decisions, promotes wellness, improves their lives, and really is an example to the country.
So Hoosiers that are considering this health care option, they should not feel anyway they're going to be left out because of the discussions going on between you and Washington.
Well, I think that what I'd like the people that I serve to know is that we're very sincere in our discussions with the federal government about using Medicaid expansion dollars to expand coverage through the Healthy Indiana plan. I think there's 2 different futures for health care in America. There's government-driven health care, and there's consumer-driven health care. And Indiana's been a national leader in this area. 95% of our state employees have health savings accounts. The Healthy Indiana plan was started some 5 years ago that encourages people to take ownership in their health care decisions and has health savings accounts. We want to build on that and show that when you give people the ability to make those first dollar choices, when you give people incentives for wellness checks and for healthier choices in their life, that people respond to that regardless of their income level. And I think Indiana can be a real leader in this area, and we're very sincere about exploring this.
Another major consumer issue, you did not sign a bill on the Energize Indiana.
Right.
You're asking your state regulator, the IURC, to come up with some plans, some other options. Have you sent out a mixed message by not signing that bill?
Well, look, we like to say here that job creation is job one. And I was very sensitive to the concerns that lawmakers expressed, that our current energy efficiency program could put a real burden on ratepayers and also on many of our major employers in the state if it didn't include what's known as an industrial opt-out. So I was supportive of that aspect of the bill, Rafael, but I'm also somebody that really believes that the balance of our Energize Indiana program, encouraging energy efficiency and conservation, was very positive and something that I supported. And so ultimately what we decided was to allow that bill to become law without my signature. But my hope is that by not signing it, by asking the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission to develop recommendations with us for legislation for a new energy efficiency program, that we've sent a very clear message that we're committed to jobs, we're committed to protecting ratepayers in Indiana from seeing their utility costs go up, but we're also very committed to creating in the very near future a new energy efficiency program in Indiana that'll be good for our environment and good for our economy.
The 2014 legislative session is over. What was your number one achievement? Of all the bills you've signed, of all the things, of all your priorities, what was the number one achievement this year?
Well, again, this is a very difficult time in the life of our economy, and I was very grateful that we were able once again to move legislation that makes Indiana even more attractive for the kind of investment that'll put Hoosiers back to work. I think passing legislation that lowered the corporate tax rate to the second lowest in the country, giving our local communities new tools to attract investment in our areas of strength like manufacturing and industry, is going to pay real dividends in the future. But I'll tell you, in my heart, I was just deeply moved with the way Republicans and Democrats came together and found a way to begin to extend access to quality pre-K education to disadvantaged kids in this state. When we signed that bill into law this week, I was moved with emotion at the way that people here at the State House really set politics aside. We focused on the kids, and for the first time ever, we're now providing public resources for low-income kids to have access to the kind of quality pre-K education that'll help them start school ready to learn.
Governor, how did you get the supermajorities to work with you? Initially, there seemed to be some pushback. Did you have to remind them that you are a Republican governor and that they are part of your party? It seemed that pre-K and even the personal business property tax issues were going to fail towards the end, but you were able to sort of salvage that. Did you have discussions with them and say, hey, I'm Mike Pence, I'm a Republican, I'm your governor? I don't know.
Look, I think we've got the best state legislature in America. I really do. And as you know, I served in Washington, D.C. for a dozen years with lots of legislators, but there's a tremendously talented group of men and women that serve our state, frankly, in both political parties. And what we did last fall was really cast a vision for how we continue to build on the momentum in our economy, how we continue to expand educational opportunities for our kids, for our families. And you know, we were in weekly and sometimes daily discussions with legislators, and I'm just very grateful for the way we were able to come together around a short session that was certainly not short on progress for the people of Indiana.
So what about his call to lawmakers to resolve the same-sex marriage debate this year? And is getting aerospace giant Boeing to move operations to Indiana the next big get? Our conversation with the governor continues after the break. Governor Pence heads into 2015 with the ability to claim political successes, but his request for a resolution to the same-sex marriage amendment did not happen. It's now the focus of numerous lawsuits, and it will reappear in 2016 in the State House, when some suggest that Mr. Pence could seek a run for the presidency. During your State of the State, you asked on the issue of HJR 3 for a thoughtful discussion, a thoughtful debate on that issue, but you were hoping that this would be the year that it would just be resolved. You did not want it to have to reappear later on. That is not the case. Should Hoosiers have the opportunity to vote on HJR 3?
Well, I think people know where I stand on traditional marriage, and I'm very grateful that members of both parties of the General Assembly did conduct a very respectful debate on that issue. And they resolved it, as is their constitutional prerogative, in the means and in the timing of their choosing. And I respect that outcome. And we'll continue to hold the position that I hold and continue to stand for the principles that I stand for. But at the end of the day, I think the General Assembly acquitted themselves in a way that gave honor to the people of our state and was respectful, and I think every Hoosier was grateful for that.
You had two major corporate announcements this week. In the city of Indianapolis, Cummins, from your hometown, going to build a distribution headquarters in downtown Indianapolis. You were in Lafayette for the GE opening as well. Is Boeing the next big get?
Well, let me say, obviously, Cummins building a facility here, a distribution center in Indianapolis, is a great plum for our capital city. Their commitment to my hometown of Columbus, Indiana, for their headquarters on an expanding basis is great for that community and great for Indiana. But I will tell you, the announcement about GE Aviation, which is the largest jet manufacturer in the world, choosing Indiana, I think is a real affirmation of the people of our state, the direction that our states have been on over much of the last decade, and a real affirmation of the strength of higher education, including Purdue University in the state of Indiana. Look, we were in a very tough competition for that GE Aviation plant. I met with the chairman and CEO of General Electric, spoke to him on several occasions. We knew we were in a tough fight. But because of the people of Indiana, the character, the caliber, the commitment to craftsmanship, a strong workforce, strong education, and that pro-business environment, we won that commitment. And I really do believe that the best is yet to come for Indiana, because more companies like GE Aviation and like Cummins Engine Company are going to continue to see that Indiana is just the best place to grow a business. And I'm excited about the progress we're making.
Is getting a GE, then does it make it easier then to attract a Boeing or any kind of high-tech or manufacturer of that level to come to Indiana? Does it make it much easier to say, look, we have this, come on, join the group?
Well, look, Indiana really has been leading the nation in manufacturing jobs.
And are you surprised at that? Because around the world,
yeah,
manufacturing jobs left to Mexico and to Korea and to Vietnam and to Thailand, but you have robust cities like Kokomo now and Lafayette. And
right.
Are you surprised at it?
I'm not surprised at all. As you see companies making the decision they're making to come back to the United States, Indiana is always a good decision. Look, we're a right-to-work state. We just lowered corporate taxes again. We have a workforce in Indiana that is committed to excellence, hard work, and obviously we have the best location in the country for people that make things and then distribute them across the country and across the world. So I love telling Indiana's story. It's a tough competition for jobs out there, but I think the best is yet to come for the Hoosier State.
A part of Indiana's story is basketball. There's a basketball behind you. There are thousands of basketball fans in Indianapolis
right.
this weekend for the NCAA Midwest Regional. Is amateur sports still an economic driver, and do we still need to grow that as part of our economic plan?
Well, I don't think there's any question that that our capital city's long-standing commitment to be the amateur sports capital of the world is a great asset to our state, and we certainly welcome the NCAA teams, and watching Louisville and Kentucky square off will be a lot of fun. Although I will tell you, I'd sure like to see one of our Indiana teams playing, but we'll be there next year.
It is now time for our political insiders. Democrat Lara Beck, Republican Jennifer Hallowell. The governor signed a number of bills, including the transit bill. So will voters now support the bill that many folks said, yeah, we want to be able to expand transit? Will voters support some sort of tax increase to pay for it?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm glad that the governor signed the bill. I think that this is an important first step. The bill, as most folks would say, was not perfect. But I think there will have to be a concerted campaign. And I think that there are a lot of possibilities for mass transit in this city, and I think everybody would agree with that.
The transit supporters are really going to have to come together and put together a plan to take this message to voters, and I'd say they have a lot of work to do that, just because they've been working on it for years. It's relatively new to the public, and so I think there's a lot of strategy involved in figuring out when is the best time to have this on the ballot that might give it the best chance to be successful for the people who want to. And they also have to take into account that there are going to be conservative groups who are going to mobilize and fight this proposal.
Was it short-sighted not to include light rail? Everyone has light rail. Everywhere you go around the country, people have light rail. Should voters have the opportunity, if they were going to spend any kind of money, or at least have to pay for it, to include light rail?
It's very expensive. So,
yeah.
The bottom line was it wasn't going to get out of the legislature if light rail was a part of the legislation.
The conversation between our insiders continues on Twitter. Check out their Twitter handles and give us your opinion, and stay up to date with Abdul, Kip, Lara, and Jennifer throughout the week. The relationship between Russia and the U.S. is tense over the situation in Crimea. RTV6 State House reporter Katie Hines has been keeping tabs on this issue with our congressional delegation. Truly just an issue that just keeps developing every day.
It is. Senator Dan Coates believes the current sanctions against Russia are too little too late. Coates, who is in the past the former U.S. ambassador to Germany, wants more direct action against the Russian economy, especially on their energy and military exports. He thinks Russia's actions are a threat to European and American national security.
I think it's more than a European issue. We've seen incidents like this in the last century grow into something that has drawn the United States into, with the loss of literally millions of lives in Europe, and U.S. soldiers also. So I think nipping these things in the bud when someone acts as a big bully and a bad neighbor and seizes an area by force, the things that Putin has said about restoring Russia to its former glory, strong signals that this may not be the stop. So let's get at it now. Let's hit them hard with sanctions, make them pay at the bank, and really hit their economy so that they know that there's a huge price to pay, and it's not worth that price to keep going.
And Katie, it seems that this issue has united both Republicans and Democrats, the issue of more sanctions on Russia over the Crimean situation.
Yeah, so here's a little bit what we're hearing. Senator Joe Donnelly recently was part of a bipartisan coalition who traveled to the Ukraine, visited the area, and what he told us was that everyone there expressed serious concerns about Russia and their illegal invasion, also their annexation of Crimea. He says the sanctions send a strong message that the U.S. is pushing Russia for its actions, or punishing Russia, rather, and will continue to stand with the people of Ukraine.
You've also heard from the 6th District Congressman Luke Messer.
We did. He also said that he would like to see tougher sanctions.
Our TV6 reporter, State House reporter Katie Hines, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Historic and hometown. The Indianapolis Recorder has served as a beacon and a voice for the city's minority community. The paper is among the largest and prestigious of its kind in the nation. Its president, Shannon Williams, is in the Sunday spotlight.
It's a tremendous weight, tremendous responsibility, but it's something that we obviously hold in high regard and take very seriously. We've been around for almost 120 years, and so we really strive to continuously be that voice, no matter how far society in general, or African Americans in particular, come or have come over the years. The Recorder is always going to be that voice that represents the views of the minority community. Sometimes that's not good. Sometimes some of those views are controversial. Sometimes they're a bit off-putting. Sometimes they're very sensitive, but sometimes they're really good. But we're always going to cover those issues and be that voice. Oftentimes people think if you have a certain title behind your name or you make a certain amount of money, that's successful. But I think it's really just personal. So for me, it's just setting small goals, accomplishing those goals, setting more goals, accomplishing those, and continuously doing the same thing over and over. Just being positive and just living life from a really pure and sincere place. That's success to me. You also have to have people who believe in you. I'm fortunate in the sense that my predecessor, who was also my mentor, Caroline Mays, another female who's really doing some awesome things in this community, believed in me, and she helped instill a certain work ethic, and she taught me a lot of things. So I think it means a lot to have someone in your corner who understands your capacity and your ability, but it can be challenging at times, being a woman, being young. I'm often the youngest person at meetings. I'm often the only minority, and a lot of times the only woman, so that can be a bit daunting at times, but I think the way this world is going and we're advancing, it's becoming a bit more mainstream, so to speak. It's not uncommon, and it's really refreshing to see so many women doing so many positive things, not only in this community, but throughout the nation and the world.
Shannon Williams in the Sunday Spotlight. Now to a program built to help women succeed, and some of it depends on what's on the hanger. How you can get involved in this economic movement next. The fabric to a good life and reaching new heights could be found on a hanger of all places. Dress for Success is looking for your help with their campaign known as the Send One Suit Week. The organization is hoping you will donate women's business-style clothing, or maybe your company will host a collection drive to help ladies be ready for that job interview. Dress for Success plans on assisting 1,300 women in central Indiana this year alone.
That suit changes a woman's life. It changes her perception about how she feels about herself. We're able to get women employed, and then once they get employed, they become self-sufficient. So this helps the community all around.
A great program all around. The Send One Suit Week is being sponsored by Harrison College. For more information, you can call 317-940-3737 and press 2 to get more information on this program, or online at indydfs.org. That's it for this edition of Indianapolis This Week. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy all of the action downtown for the Elite 8 game at Lucas Oil Stadium. I'm Rafael Sanchez. Have a great day.